So I've been awake in the Garden of Eden for almost 7 years, and it's frightening. It's really frightening what men has given up for fantasy. And that's exactly what's happened, my friends. The mind was taken into fantasy long, long ago. The stories, the fables about God and punishing women and Eve and Adam and apples and all the bullshit has taken man to hell. Now, he hasn't really been in hell for 2,600 years. His mother was. And as long as men evolve in this darkness, in this dark, dark fantasy about women, they'll never know what a woman is. They'll think they're women, maybe. They'll want to dress up like a woman and see what it is to be a woman. It's so vile against my spirit that I have to say something. Then this morning I was playing some cards and I was listening to these men on BitChute. I told you I don't really want to listen to them much anymore, and I don't trust them, I really don't trust these men or their intentions, especially because they worship people like Steve Bannon and Trump and all that. But you can't rule out every man. You can't. You have to listen to some of them, right? And I'm going to promote these guys today, actually. Jim Fetzer. I don't like him. I don't subscribe to... Oh, I do. I guess I did today subscribe to him. He's only got 12,000 subscribers, so that's good. When they got low subscribers, I can trust them more. But he's got a strange affect to his voice, and it always irritates me to no end. So you've got to know that there are many Satanists who are spewing the truth while omitting the most important bits and parts. So you have to be a critical thinker to watch anybody these days. But as I was listening, why don't you listen to them? I really enjoyed this part of their conversation a lot. Maybe you will too.
Meanwhile, brain fog from his cell phone, folks. That's brain fog. Federal Appeals Court rules against women averts policy of allowing transgender girls to compete on female sports teams in Connecticut case. This is just disgusting. A lawsuit filed on behalf of 4 female athletes who are consistently deprived of honors and opportunities to compete at elite levels because the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference allowed a policy that let males who identify as females to compete in girls' athletic events. Starting in spring of 2017, 2 male athletes began competing in Connecticut girls' high school track. In just 3 years, they broke 17 girls' track meet records, deprived girls of more than 85 opportunities to advance to the next level, took 15 women's state track championship titles. 4 were earned by ADF's client, Chelsea Mitchell, 4 times. She was the fastest female in a women's state championship race. 4 times she watched that title, honor, and recognition go to a male athlete instead. Over the course of her high school career, she lost to these males more than 20 times. The other female athletes represented, all likewise, have been denied medals, placement, and advancement. On Tuesday, the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against women and affirmed a policy allowing transgenders to compete on women's teams. This is just disgusting. This is just disgusting. In scholastic competition in Connecticut, more boys than girls are experiencing victory, the lawsuit stated, referring to transgender female athletes. Regarding the ruling, the Alliance Defending Freedom senior counsel has said the Second Circuit got it wrong. We'll evaluate all legal options, including appeal. Our clients, like all female athletes, deserve access to fair competition. It's no longer fair when males are permitted to compete in women's sports. Every woman deserves the respect and dignity that comes with having an equal opportunity to excel and win in athletics. and the ADF remains committed to protecting the future of women's sports. Meanwhile, a Texas legislature has introduced a bill to ban diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in state schools. Good. A bill that will prohibit them has been introduced by a Republican legislator, Carl Tepper. The document puts emphasis on commitment to intellectual diversity and a variety of viewpoints, seeks to prohibit the funding, promotion, sponsorship, and support of any office of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The bill also seems to endorse a more historical definition of equality, stating it prohibits the endorsement or dissuasion of or interference with any lifestyle, race, sex, religion, or culture. Should any institution be guilty of noncompliance, it permits the victim to bring action on the institution, force it to pay for the person court costs and attorney fees. The legislation comes as Texas state Republicans battle investment group Blackwater over woke investment policies, referring to environmental, social, and governance scoring that demands businesses and governments make commitments to left-wing social and political ideology in order to gain access to capital. Meanwhile, too, literally, 1984, Cambridge Dictionary adds a new definition of woman. By keeping pressure on society to adjust to the reality we live in, they have managed to erase decades of progress for various actual progressive movements throughout history. The first thing they attacked was the gains made through the civil rights movement by telling everyone color does indeed matter. To say otherwise is bizarrely racist. The next target was the feminist movement, seeing considerable leaps in equal rights for women and celebrating what it means to be a woman. Apparently what it means to be a woman now is whatever you want it to mean, including being a man. Cambridge just dropped a new definition of woman. An adult who lives and identifies as female, though they may have been said to have a different sex at birth. She was the first trans woman elected to a national office. Mary is a woman who was assigned male at birth. When I was a kid, I used to want to strangle my mother because from the time I could read, I didn't know the meaning of a word or how to spell it. She'd tell me to look it up, which meant a trip to our trusty dictionary, which had a prominent place. Now,
I just have to say in here why this guy has to say, I wanted to strangle my mother. Like, why do these men have to use words like that when all she was doing was telling him to go to a dictionary to figure things out? And he's saying I don't know. Fuck off, Jim. I really don't like this reptile. I really don't. But they're getting a point to cross.
You can't do that any longer. Here's Charlie Kirk tweeting. Transgender Navy SEAL Chris Beck has announced he made a mistake and that transitioning destroyed my life. How many children will be saying the same thing in 10 years if we don't stop this madness now? If you haven't woken up yet to how the extreme gender ideology movement and the progressive left are trying to silence the voices of your daughter and dim the light of their potential, you are behind the curve. This isn't just about words and language, but about women's rights. The ACLU has been actively fighting to allow transgender to compete with women in sports again. Let me say that again.
Let me say to you, Jim, that this is not a woman problem. Okay? This is what they're doing. They're piling the garbage onto women as if it's a woman problem. No, Jim. That's why you wanted to strangle your mother. You're being raised without love. And so it's a man problem. Big time.
Again, the organization meant to fight for the rights of minorities and the underserved, which used to include women, is now fighting to let men compete in women's sports. This cancer is spread through obnoxious phrases like people's true self, their truth, or their lived reality, all meant to provide a false sense of enlightenment. It's right up there with social justice. There is no other truth than truth, no different reality than reality. Just as no such thing as social justice, only justice. To add to the insanity, the progressive have minimized the very nature of women with similar nonsensical phrases. The government, medical community, and media have actively whittled down the beauty of being a woman with phrases like pregnant people, birthing people, people with uteruses, bodies with vaginas. If you're a woman, you should be insulted by this move to try to minimize who we are.
Why aren't women insulted? Like, why? You know, Freud, he came along from Nazi Germany. Freud is a Nazi. He was a Jew. He was a Freemason. And he was a psychiatrist. And now he is the founder of all of the universities with his psychology. Him and Carl Jung. They always have a controlled opposition. They always want to keep you in a box and keep personalities in a box and keep men and women as the same. Like the Carl Jung theories with the Myers-Briggs. I'm an administration counselor for that as well. I went through my training to become certified to give that test to people, the Myers-Briggs personality indicator. All comes from Nazi Germany. All came from torture of people. All of it. Every bit of psychiatry is as evil as they get. And they got their work out of women and children. They are the emotional beings here. And that is what they are trying to stamp out. Your heart. And as they stamp out the heart of a woman, they're killing men. They're being raised as psychopaths. They're being raised as people I don't like. They're being raised to be cunt envy. You know, Jesus did say, judge not, lest ye be judged. And didn't Freud say women were penis envy? Yeah, he did. And he really made up a big story about who women are. And that is what is being taught to all of your educators, all of your doctors, all of your teachers, all of your social workers, are based on bullshit against your mothers. It's all bullshit. She's lobotomized from her emotions, and she doesn't have her intuition. And so she can't raise you right, boys. She can't. Not as long as she is thought of as a crazy bitch, an airhead, not as smart as men, and needs to be pulled along by men. That's bullshit.
Add to that the insinuation males can have babies, have periods, go through menopause. It's a wonder more feminists aren't up in arms. I could take a small win that at least they say you have to be an adult man to make this decision and not a child. However, the two sentences they provide as examples are even better. She was the first trans woman elected to a national office and married as a woman who was assigned male at birth. They aren't even trying to hide their agenda at this point. Changing the definition of woman in the first two examples are actually talking about biological men. Man, I feel like a woman. Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling had probably taken the most heat for speaking out. If sex isn't real, she said, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. If you blur the lines of science and biology, you take away women's unique gifts and challenges on the planet. Yet schools across the country have made moves to create gender-neutral bathrooms, locker rooms, language without regard for what might mean for the girls in their schools. Just this week, the Loudoun County Public School former superintendent and spokesperson were indicted after a probe discovered they lied of their knowledge of sexual assaults on girls in bathroom by a boy allowed to use the girls' bathroom. This news provides hope for reality to prevail, but don't get too comfortable. Meanwhile, Redux tweets. They've obtained a police report showing two female students were assaulted by a trans-identified male in the girls' restroom at Edmond Memorial High School in Oklahoma. Both of the girls sustained injuries to the eyes, face, and head. The Center for Disease Control, moreover, now defines chest feeding as a term used by many masculine-identified trans to describe the act of feeding their baby from their chest, regardless of whether they have or had not chest or top surgery. How can they do that if they don't have mammary glands? How is it possible? What has happened to us? We're normalizing the idea man can breastfeed babies. Used to be if a man tried to make a baby suckle from his nipples, it would be considered a crime.
When my son was born in 1978, I was told my milk was probably poison. It's not going to be enough for him, and formula is best. I was also told to chop his penis in a circumcision. Do you see? We're raised by Satan here, and it's because your mother is sitting in the fucking Garden of Eden.
That's an acceptable term in the CDC.
Oh, by the way, this generation, if you Google, what is this generation called? What do we call it? Is it called the millennials? Is it called baby boomers? Is it called Generation X? Z? No. This generation is called Alpha. Alpha generation. Fun.
The author writes, I'll turn 40 next year, and most days I feel pretty young still, but on days like today I feel like a relic. I spent my whole life adult being told by men what type of woman I should be, how I should look, how I should act. I used to think each generation of women had it easier than last, thanks to the battle we fought for them. But instead, I feel my daughter will be still told by men what type of woman she should be, how she should look and act. Except those men will be allowed to say they know better because they are women themselves. Here's an example. Brittany Griner has no mammary glands. This is clearly a man. A trans. That's why the Biden admin put priority on bringing him back instead of a decorated Marine. Or, look, this is coming from the top. Michelle Obama has a package most men don't have. When your husband is no longer president, she lets her beard grow. They are perverting the whole nation to make themselves feel more normal. Of that I have no doubt. Scott, your thought.
I'm going to listen to Scott's thoughts because I really like the rest of this conversation. I don't know about him too much, Jim. Something off with him, something very, very off. But he brings in good guests, and so sometimes I listen. And I like to know what men are thinking when it comes to this transgender stuff. And I know that people have been normalized into sodomy and pedophilia and now transhumanism. And if you're not tolerant, then you're kind of out of the loop. Anyway.
I'm so glad that I grew up in a healthy Scottish family where my mother and my grandmother and my aunt and my uncles and such all encouraged, a boy to grow up into a healthy, woman-loving young man and cherish that. I am astounded. I laugh at this whole thing, but at the same time, I'm outraged to the point I could yell so loud about this. But the whole thing boils down to the insanity of a nation. And how do you stop this madness? As it was saying, you grow the good. You grow the sane. You encourage the good and the sane. You grow healthy attraction between men and women, the recognition of the complementariness of men and women into marriages, not fornication, no cohabitation, but marriages between men and women. You create laws that recognize that. Laws like Russia has done, recognizing marriages between a man and a woman. They put it in their constitution. Too bad we don't have the character to do that. Indonesia.
Okay, guys. Sorry, gentlemen. No, the marriage contract is illegal in love's eyes. The marriage contract is illegal. Make no vows. Do not do rituals. This was who Jesus was, if you really want to know who Jesus was. He hated worship, hated the vows, right? And when I was in Ephesus, Turkey, and I discovered that Mary, the spirit of Mary, was beheaded in Ephesus, Turkey. She was beheaded there. She was caged, and then she was beheaded along with I don't know how many other women. I saw a pool. I wonder if I can find the... I saw a pool. They said it was Mother Mary's pool, her swimming pool. I said, no, that's not a swimming pool. That's a fucking pool for heads. That's where there's heads in that pool. And it seemed to me that the pool was shaped in the figure of a woman, believe it or not. I'm going to see right now if I can find it for you. Okay. Ephesus. EPH. I think. massive pool. This is me in Ephesus, Turkey. I went by myself. It was 2 years after Trevor died. And I took my divorce money and I went to the Mediterranean. And I didn't know why, other than that I just wanted to run. But now I know why. I went to find my previous homes and to share my story. Where is that pool? Okay, let me see. I like to prove what I am talking about. There it is. That, to me, that pool there, if you can see it, that's where Mary was kept in exile. It's all in the Bible, it's all that bullshit. But this is, they told me this is a swimming pool. I saw this as a woman's symbol, and I knew that Mary was beheaded here, even though they didn't say. And I knew that this pool was full of heads for women. And that the whole stadium at the Ephesus, Turkey, I felt was, well, that wasn't it. No, sorry. I felt that. I felt that Turkey was the place for marriage contracts because I saw this marble. Let's see if I show it to you. And it's the capture of women. I swear it is, guys. It's the capture of women. Where is that marble? I'll put this on pause and find it. Yeah, there it is, the marble. This was in Ephesus, Turkey, too, and it's a marble on the ground that startled me so much. I felt personal, even though I was still sleepwalking. I was very much asleep during this trip. It didn't come to me until my son came back in 2016 and woke up my eyes to everything. So I just saw this crowned alien type woman in this marble with this big foot stamping her out, and this block here. Do you see the block? I see it as a head chopping block. And I asked the guy where. I said, what the fuck does this mean? And he said, this guy, it's right there, the marble. He said, oh, that's the path to the whores. You know, like so dismissive of women, period. Like these men can't stand women. They're women haters and they're head choppers. And a lot of them are redheaded. They really hate women. I believe this is where they stem from, Ephesus, Turkey. This man is sitting on a toilet there. That's outdoor toilets for men. He made me physically sick. He's the tour guide at Ephesus, Turkey. Now, you know that I know that we are repeating lives over and over again. So this is probably the same man, probably a head chopper, right? But now he's doing tour guides. It's all bullshit. This is a young lady I met in Turkey. That was some trip, I'm going to tell you. I went to Greece. Anyway, I'm getting off rails, aren't I? So that's what I wanted to talk about, was the Garden of Eden and how they've captured women, which is your mother. And if we can agree that you love your mother, please love your mother. I know I didn't love my mother. I wrote the book, Evil Eyes, A Daughter's Memoir. And my mother was a psychopath, but that's how they're being raised here, right? She is the one with heart. She is the one that will bring your comfort, your joy, your healing. You don't need nothing. She'll heal you. But if she is considered a loser in God's eyes, then she's going to be considered a loser in man's eyes. And that's what's happened for 2,600 years. And that's my story. I am sitting here in Quebec City very much alone because of this story.